with the best father and son team on the internet. It's time for Homie and the Dude.
What is up, everyone? This is Homie and the Dude, the father and son TTRPG and MMA podcast, and the home of the best NPCs on this goddamn planet. And we are here today with Allie, the game goddess of Dice Drop Evolution's Mutants and MasterMinds actual play podcast. Allie, we are hyped to see you.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks for coming. We're honestly, we've been looking forward to having this conversation with you for a while for multiple reasons, outside of the fact that you play a system that we don't play, and we're really interested to talk to you about that and get your perspective as an insider, as well as also, just really excited to talk to you. Seen you in the sphere for a while. You and I have kind of interacted and whatnot, and I've just been really excited to be able to have a bit of face-to-face time with you, though we had a little bit on chat. I think I'm really hyped for today. I wanted to...
I'm really excited.
Oh, I'm glad too. I'm super stoked to hear that. I want to ask you a question. We talked a little bit about this before we started, about your graphic design work and whatnot. And the first thing that really struck me about Dice Drop Evolution, as I got to know you guys through the Twitter sphere and Discord and whatnot, was your guys' incredible artwork and the way that you guys present your podcast, the way that you have your logo and stuff. What kind of inspired this graffiti pop art style that you guys use? Because it's freaking awesome. Talk to me about that.
So everything aesthetic design wise was me, because I was the one graphic designer on the podcast originally, before we switched game masters GMs. So all the graphic design work was my job to begin with. I already knew that I wanted to do something a little bit more neon, a little bit more grungy, because we already said the setting was going to be a little bit more cyberpunk dystopian, and I wanted it to give that sort of pop and punk to it, rather than, wow, look at this pretty fantasy flower vine going up, because that just wasn't our aesthetic, that wasn't our style. I actually need to start putting together a brand guide for the podcast soon. So yeah, it was really fun to make.
Thanks for watching this episode. We really appreciate you supporting Homie and the Dude.
Please hit us with the Holy Trinity, like our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram. Just search @Homie and the Dude. It all really helps. I was gonna say, how long did it take you to complete some of those projects?
So the logo, I'm gonna be very honest. The logo, I didn't give anyone in my podcast a choice. I was like,
that's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, I know. They didn't get a choice. I mean, it wasn't A, B, or C. I was just this is our logo now. And everyone was like, okay.
Well, this is exactly what, so you are doing, not only are you coming up with the idea, but you're applying the idea to the art. So you're creating the art for the logo, for the design and everything. What's your preferred medium? Are you a sketch person that then outlines that digitally, or are you working on a Wacom pad, or how are you doing this?
It really depends on the project. I do use a lot of Wacom tablet stuff, but that's mainly for when I'm working for Amber's stuff. I do all of the assets for the Space Jamber. You just had her on. So I do all of Amber's assets. So I normally do a Wacom tablet, because the style I made for her is very whimsical, very nice and clean and nice gradients. So Wacom tablet's just easier for me to get where I need to with that. But with my work, I'm strictly in Illustrator, putting together big shapes, creating shadows with that. It really depends on what I'm working on. I did go to art school originally. I went for a year and a half at the Maryland Institute College of Art, which is one of the big guns when it comes to art schools. I left on the dean's list. I left because I wasn't getting the education that I needed, because I wanted to be a graphic designer that worked commercially so I could get paid. And they didn't understand that, so I kind of just skedaddled.
Amazing. Well, do you know, I think it's one of those things that's super interesting that, you're like, it depends on the, first of all, let me just say Amber's art, like we were talking about her whole aesthetic, how she's, now got like the pink headphones to go with the, and, the hair and the keyboard. And I was like, it's just, it all is fitting really beautifully. So, the fact that you are a part of that is absolutely awesome. I take my hat off to you. You absolutely smash it with all of the stuff that you're doing for her. In terms of that, it's really interesting because we work closely with a couple of artists and watching them, go through their process. Some are very much like digital, like I sketch digitally and then I line digitally and I, paint digitally and all that. Where others we know, are like, cool, I start on paper with pencil and pen and, then I go from there and take photos and then build it up, so on and so forth. It's really interesting to see, all these different styles and how people go about it. And it often is a product of, what you've learned and where you've come from. Like you said, you studied some art for a little bit and things like that. I wanted to ask, does that influence you? Like, do you draw your own characters often? Do you find yourself going like, for like games, I need to like get in the zone, so I'm gonna draw some characters and get in that vibe?
So the way I get into the zone, I'm not an illustrator. An illustrator and graphic designer are very different. Graphic designers work with illustrators. If you look at Matthew from Abyssal Brews, Matthew is the graphic designer. He makes all of the layout. He makes sure the typography looks great. He makes everything gorgeous. The illustrations you see are from the illustrator named Fernando, who is fantastic and amazing. So those are two perfect artists making a wonderful child. So I'm not an illustrator. I'm a graphic designer. I will lay out and make things look good, but I will not sketch. When I'm trying to get into character, I put together Spotify playlists. I sometimes cosplay. I try to like mess around with voices for like a day or two till like I kind of understand what I want. But that's where I'm normally at when it comes to character creating.
That's really, really important, like interesting, because we have had others that have said they are really interested with music as an influence to characters as well. We're working on a live stream right now, putting together character depictions of each person that's playing, and wondering how important it is for you, or like what level of interest you have if there is some sort of character creation, visual character creation of your character, that you like want to be involved in, or you don't care. It's, like put whatever you want up, I'll act it out, and that's what comes to life.
It depends on what I'm doing it for, I guess. So like if it's like a simple one shot, I'm going to be there one time, it's one character I'm going to play, I'm going to be like, yeah, that's fine. But if it's something that, because we just got our characters for Dice Drop Evolution like drawn for us in chibi style from an artist that Elena knows. I was super picky. I was super, super picky when it came to River, even though like I am the game goddess now. I'm still kind of like playing my character that I was before as a side character. She is still in the mix, but I was super picky. When she first came back, I was just like, I don't like the eyeliner. Please give her piercings. She has no piercings. No one's gonna know who that is. It just looks like a black-haired chibi. I need some grunge, and that's it. Like I said, it's situational.
That makes total sense. And also, like, at the end of the day, look, let's also put this into context. River is someone that you have, though you are now the GM, it's someone you've carried through, nearly bloody 70 episodes of a podcast at this point. And with 70 episodes in, it becomes not just, a character that you're playing. It's a character that you love. It's a character that, you're committed to, and that, you've found, grace and time for. And I think when that happens, it's definitely something you care a lot more about than, a one-shot character. You're like, I'll find an image on Google and that'll do,
No, there are one-shot characters that I do fall in love with, where I'm just like, I will slap this character into any game that you want me to, and that's like fine. Yeah. Like I was playing Kids on Bikes, and I was playing this rowdy alt kid boy named Dex, who was just like a ladies' man. And I will play Dex till the day I die. I loved playing Dex. He was just like a huge idiot and was very like food and girl driven, and it was really funny.
Do you know, it's one of those things where like sometimes you hit it with a character and you feel it. Like I know there's definitely like one or two characters that I've found that are like you said, that the one where you're like, this is not only fun to play, but I'm good at it. Everything is like all the pieces are falling into place like very, very easily. What I wanted to ask you, obviously, you just mentioned that you're playing Kids with Bikes and stuff like that. And over here at Homie and the Dude, we do a lot of D&D stuff because my small brain can't at the moment deal with any more systems than D&D to focus on. But I obviously really wanted to talk to you about Mutants and Masterminds because it's a really interesting system. I've done like a little bit of research about it, and I want to know what about this D20 system that comes with Mutant Masterminds really interests you. What parts of it you like? What parts of it you're like, oh, I wish I could like change that. Like if I could homebrew something to fix that, I freaking would. What for you are the bits that you're loving and hating?
Here's the thing, Bodhi. I learned everything I know about Mutants and Masterminds through the last GM that I played with on the podcast.
Yeah.
I refuse to pick up a book and learn more about Mutants and Masterminds. So basically everything is homebrewed.
Amazing.
Everything's a D20. If there's rules that I actually read in Mutants and Masterminds, because there are some that I do read and I don't like, I go, nah, I'm going to change that to something else. And that's just how I live, because you and I both have really bad ADHD and learning rules is not our strong suit.
Yeah, I totally feel that, like it's not one where, and in terms of that, I also do the same thing. Like I break rules often for flavor and for like, a moment for me is more important than, freaking a rule in a book. So I very much fall into that category of like, sometimes it's more about like, screw it. If I don't like that, I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to put that in, I disagree with that. And I really like that mentality personally. I know a lot of like other GMs are very much like, no, you're breaking the system.
I can't deal with rules lawyers. If any rules lawyer came onto my game, I'd be like, I'm sorry, dude, you can't tell me what to do. Like, that's just how this is going to be. I'm going to say, yeah, that's okay, and be like, no, that's not, to other things. And that's how it's going to be.
You know what's great about it, though, is you both do it for a certain reason, which is that's the preferred learning and sort of delivery style that you have. But it's also like there's an element of courage in just dropping the rules, and also an element of stepping into creativity of like, if I can loosen this up a little bit, not, for people do it for different reasons, and you guys do it for, your own reasons. But the bottom line is you do it, right? You get into that space where it is a space that you create that allows for more creativity. And I think that's awesome. I'm not sure how much of that is something that is part of your decision-making, or is it simply because, look, it's just easier to do it this way?
Well, I've been kind of world building since I was like 5, and that's just because I've always like pictured myself in like a fantastical fairy realm rather than real life, because that seems more fun. And so world building for me is really easy. So when I'm put in a setting where it's just like, this is your setting, this is what you're doing, this is your character, and these are how your characters act, I'm just like, but what if we didn't? And we did it this way.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's just kind of how I am. Now, when I say I've been world building, it doesn't mean I've been playing D&D. I started playing D&D when I was around like 18. Like I was late. I was very late to the game.
Dude, to be fair, I played like a couple games when I was 15, and then like 20s is me. So you're not doing too bad. You've been at this for a lot longer than I. That's amazing.
Yeah, so when I first like picked up D&D and I figured out like what it was and how to actually play it, I was just like, oh wait, so everything I was doing as a child where people thought I was a little weirdo, I can do it with other little weirdos, and we can roll dice about it. And I was like, perfect, done.
Did you know, it's one of those things that really does, like it brings you in. It's a safe space, and do you know, it'd be a really good place to ask. You know, what was your kind of intro to it? You said, you know, it was when you're 18 years old. Was it college buddies? Was it like homies from like a game store? Like what was your first kind of situation? And also as a female, or as she, they, how did you fit into that space? Because I know sometimes, I know I've entered a couple of spaces and it's been a bit volatile towards, you know, people of other genders, of sexualities and things like that. Did you experience anything like that in your first couple games?
So my first couple games, so the GM I was talking about prior that was originally on Dice Drop, he was my first GM on
amazing.
anything, on everything. Unfortunately, after he left DDE, we don't talk anymore. It ended very badly. But we met on this beautiful dating website called OkCupid.
I've heard it. Incredible. That's awesome.
It didn't work out. He realized that was crazy, and then realized, no, this energy would be good for for gaming and for Dungeons and Dragons. And so I made a stupid, like the stupidest, like probably -2 modifier wood elf druid. And I told the GM, I was just like, I can play the rogue better as a rogue as a druid. And he was just like, the other rogue in the party is not gonna like that. And I was just like, I don't care. And so the first time, like, the rogue in the party caught word of it and he got a little bit salty. So immediately the first time, like, the party saw me and they were just like, killer. Well, he was more like killer, and I was just like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. You really just meta the fact that just because I said I could probably play a better rogue than you as a druid.
I see a little bit of a power struggle going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like me being like an asshole. It was me saying, hey, this 16-year-old boy playing a rogue and not helping his teammates in battle and going to a bar instead to drink is kind of bullshit. And that was kind of what I was getting at. I can play a better rogue than you.
Yeah. And it's
you know what I love about this is like
and everyone experiences this. Like I had the same freaking thing. A couple of games that I've played, like you have a couple of people who are just a little bit like stilted, and you find like whatever, you know, it might be exterior prejudice, it might be jealousy, it might be, you know, whatever things happen. It's something that I found crops up often, especially in first couple of sessions. I find is something that often definitely happens.
There has to be some sort of like in a new party, a new campaign, almost a sort of setting the climate period between players of like, okay, let's figure out like my character is in the world, but like me navigating with these other real people, like how are we going to do this? Like who are the natural leaders? Who are the natural supporters? Who are the facilitators? Who are the ones that are going to be a little bit like antagonistic? And then if that all works, if we can get that chemistry to work, then now let's jump into our characters and make that work. If it doesn't work, doesn't matter what characters we have, it's fucked. It's fucked from the beginning. Like it's just too annoying and too hard. So, you know, what I love about what you do, Allie, is
honesty.
Yeah, and you challenge the norm, and through challenging the norm is like new creativity comes. Like that's where the new shit comes from. That oh fuck, we didn't think about that because no one's ever fucking done that before. That's awesome.
Yeah, agree. Second.
Yeah, my main what I do every time I play D&D, mostly this is like if I'm doing a long campaign, is I start as a rogue, I can't say that word correctly ever, or a druid, and then I multi-class in either one. And people are like, why? And I was like, because I want a thorn whip, but I want to steal shit. Like I don't understand what the issue is here. And everyone's just like, that's such an odd multi-class. I'm just like, is it though? Like,
I mean, it's one of those things, like it's an odd multi-class until you have like a monk warlock and you're like, come on now, like can we get real right now? But no, I hear that, and I think it's really interesting because I know as the TTRPG space, we typically like as you kind of know, believe it's a safe space. It's a space where, you know, it's about, you know, diversity and like inclusion and like all of that. And it's interesting that you do find those little pockets. And it's, like I said, it's often in those like first couple of sessions, I often find those pockets of like red flags that go up and I'm like, whoa, I'm like out of this group, you know, kind of thing. And oh, I'm not playing with you kind of thing. And like, it's one
Sometimes
of those things that you learn.
They don't even realize it as well. Like you can do a session 0 and it's like, okay, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this. Hang on, we just did that. And we're just about ready to do that. So when you say we're not doing it, does it mean that you don't care or you're not aware? Which one is it? And either one is bad. Right. so you know those are
that
situations.
Was a little bit problematic, Jim. You want to try that again?
Exactly. It's one of those ones like session 0s. I think are something that I've really begun to value and really like found important. And I imagine, you know, for your dystopian world, your setting of Eden, it's grungy, it's dark. There's gore. There's, you know, violence. There's, you know, all this like politicky stuff going on between characters and stuff. So let me ask you, how important was that like session 0 for you guys? Was that like, okay guys, this could get real like dicey quickly, so let's draw some real clean lines to start this off, you know?
So people are gonna judge Dice Drop super hard after I say this, but you have to remember, everyone listening has to remember, I was not the GM at the time, so it was not my It was not my circus, but was my monkeys, if that makes sense. We did not have a session 0 for Dice Drop to see what direction it would actually go in. But you want to know something that's good that will like help me? After I became the game goddess and I took over, all my characters had a session 0, so I could figure out what the fuck we were doing. So, we didn't know what direction it would go in. And then it went in that direction and we were like, okay. But none of us were upset with it. We were actually like kind of digging it. We liked that it was a lot different from other podcasts. We liked that we like showed off like, hey, this is kind of what's happening in the real world right now. And since our setting is in the real world, just like after this post-apocalyptic mess, we're gonna show it off even in this like supposedly utopian society, but secretly dystopian. So
and do you know what I think? First of all, one, wow. Two, that's freaking crazy. That blows my mind. And also I love it that even, you know, I believe it was 40 or was it 40 episodes in that, James? Let me get the number right.
Episode 47 is when I first ever GM my first game ever, and I had to record and edit it.
I thought so. I was gonna say I thought it was deep. For you to step in that deep into a campaign and re-session 0, that is a level like that inspires the fuck out of me. Like that is so like I love that you come in and you're just like, right, I'm gonna set down some laws. We're gonna redo this. And like, I really, really love that and appreciate you, you know, stepping into that kind of headspace and doing it. And something you mentioned that actually is something I've been meaning to ask you for like a while, because in Mutants and Masterminds, in the setting that you're in, you are, like you said, it's modern day-ish, a little bit future, but you know, modern day. And you know,
200 years, it's fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's what's 200 years on the like timeline of life?
Like a click.
Exactly. So let me ask, because for me, and I know like other people I've talked to, sometimes when you're portraying like a fantasy character, like a traditional fantasy character, I'll call it, you know, the knight or like a maiden or a bard or, you know, whatever. People often find that they have to like act a certain way and get lost in like feeling like there has to be this like medieval touch to my character and whatever. Do you find role playing in the modern world easier or harder than when you're doing it in like traditional fantasy? How does that kind of suit for you?
All of us kind of accidentally made ourselves in the space. So, I like to say my personality is very River already. I just am not as grungy as she is. I'm still as outspoken. I will still speak my mind. I still shrivel up when I get scared at things. Like, another thing that I very much like wanted to put in the campaign once I was officially in like the driver's seat, I wanted to speak out more about like sort of like family, more about mental illness, just like all of that, because there are like a touch of capitalism, because that was already like in this society that we built. So it was a very big deal for me to be like, hey, all of our characters have abandonment issues. We all have depression. We all have like some form of anxiety disorder, and all of them collectively went, yes. And I was just like, cool. All of River's arc, because I'm going to make River's arc. I'm going to finish River's arc so I can officially become a side character to all the other NPCs. Is going to be kind of about mental illness, and that sort of made the horror, insane asylum sort of setting that I built, which was my first time actually like building the space and getting more and more excited. And then my players got more and more excited with it, and so I got more and more excited with it. So it became some of like the best episodes of Dice Drop, in my opinion. And James wasn't there. James left 10 episodes earlier. So
there you go, and that's what it is, you know.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that is indicative. But what I particularly love about it, Allie, is, you know, this element of realism, and you know, let's get into the real feels. Let's get into like why we do this, and we get into it. Certainly, from my perspective, I love like super fun, happy, hilarious moments. But I equally, emphasis on equally, love, you know, the other range of emotions, whether it's pain or sadness, or, you know, even
within
like
roleplay.
Yeah, within roleplay. Yeah, so that's what I'm in it for. And so
Just
for you
to like, I like emotions.
and don't get me wrong, like we're cracking jokes the entire time, and it's because we're all comfortable with one another, and I made sure we were all comfortable. And before I even touched on the Insane Asylum arc with River, I was like, guys, what is the X card here? I want to know how far I'm able to go and how far I absolutely am not able to go at all. And everyone was just like, I trust you, don't make it too gory. And I was just like, all right, cool. So this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't listened, but this might give you a reason to listen. Oswald loses his left hand at the end of the Insane Asylum arc, because the thing is with James is he never gave us an incentive of, hey, there are actual things that can happen to you here. And so I gave that, and it was going to be a finger. It was only going to be a finger, and then Kyle did the wrong thing in testing me that
Things
day.
got carried away.
And I was just like, Kyle, I have a plan for Oswald, and I'm sorry. And he was just like, fuck me up. Do it, you won't. And I was just like, well, now you lost your hand, so so that's on you.
Do you know what? That's really great, and I think, you know, it's one of those things where I think a couple points that you said are really great. First of all, having that trust within your players and your GM to communicate about, you know, cool, I trust you, don't make it too gory, and then relying that the GM will approach and go, you know, okay, we're entering a zone now where, like, you know, okay, and like you said, checking with Kyle and seeing, you know, how, you know, so on and so forth feels. And often, in a lot of cases, when you check in with people, it often helps situations and eases, you know, moments and things like that. So I really love the communication aspect of what you just spoke about, because I feel like it's such an undervalued part of fucking almost all of life. I swear to God, like the amount of times I'm telling like my friends and like my girlfriend and you guys, like, we need to talk about things, like communicate, talk about it. Like, for God's sake, we need to talk. Like, it solves so many problems. And I think it's one of those big things that, though it can be a painful, awkward, maybe uncomfortable in some cases process, it does everyone comes out the other end typically feeling a little bit better about the situation. So I really appreciate that about what you said. And the other thing I really love as a GM of consequence is, you know, putting in these like things of like, you're going to lose your hand and you're not getting it back. You're just not. You don't have a hand now. And you can deal with that. You can go get an augment if you want, but you know, you're dealing with that. And so for me, like, I value that as well, massively. I'm right there with you. Go for it.
What was really funny is that Kyle was just like, well, can Data just make me a new robot hand and that just be okay? And I was just like, Data's doing 1,000 other things right now. If you want to roll to convince Data to stop what he's doing to make you another hand so you don't have just like a nub. Because we have 2 healers. We had 2 healers on the team, one being River and the other one being Data, but Data's also the smart techie one. So it was fine. It was like cauterized right after it happened. I didn't like say, oh yeah, there's blood and guts everywhere. It was just like your hand's gone. There's a little bit of blood, and that's basically what I said. And he was just like, it's not like Resident Evil. I can't just pour goop on it and it'd be okay. I was like, no, Kyle, you're not dead.
Yeah, exactly. You're not a god. This is not how this works. Like, I'm exactly the same. Like, I'm all about, you know, like player death is important. Like currently in the family game that I run, one of the players that will also be in the Homie and the Dude actual play stream podcast coming up soon. In our family game, he has lost a finger because he went up to a mafia don, spoke some shit, and then basically got an offering of like, cool, you can go fight in the ring now or you lose a finger. And he was like, I'm losing a finger then. And so, you know, and it's one of those things of I'm like, cool, if you're gonna, as I always say to my players, I'm happy for you to make stupid decisions, but stupid decisions have stupid consequences. And that's where I come to, is like, you're gonna find out that there's things that happen when you make bad decisions. And at the end of the day, I think for me, at least in realism, it's important. Other people I know very much want to play, you know, the My Little Pony game that doesn't have, you know, any death and you're revived, like you come back to like, you know, that kind of thing. I'm all for those games, and I love that people do want to play that stuff. But for me, that doesn't sit in my world too great.
Yeah. If it's like a one shot for funsies, that's fine. If it's like a long-term campaign, I'm gonna want some like feels, some emotion, some story building, some actual like collaborative like teamwork on how this game is gonna work. And that's just what I expect out of a game. And that's just
no, it's the same thing. And like in those situations, if the role play is, you know, isn't real, then you also start, as a player, you start kind of, I don't know, like it lowers your serious. Yeah, you start lowering your seriousness. Like, okay, I'm just gonna go in there and do some funny shit because even if I die, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna come back, so I'm just gonna do some wacky shit that has no whatever the consequences are. I'm cool with it. Whereas to really get into, like you're saying, to the immersive part of it, you need to be immersed. You need to have some sort of realism as part of the experience, and that is the ultimate fucking hammer. You could die. You do something stupid, you're gonna die. Like, and you can come back, but you know, there's a whole bunch of hassle to you coming up with another character and how the fuck we're gonna fit your character in and all this other shit. Like that.
that was fun. Yeah, because we went looking for a new character because I couldn't just parade around 2 monkeys. I needed a third. So yeah, we put in like applications and stuff like that, and we found Britain or Skagwater RPG, and he is great, and we love him.
So, well, let me just circle back because I know we've mentioned James a couple times and the separation, and I know it probably was a bit like that's a pretty big schism for you know, you lose a player, that's one thing. You lose a GM, that's a whole other thing. And I'm sure there was reasons behind it that you may or may not want to talk about. But as far as your own emotional journey of like, okay, I am now stepping in to this new role. Talk to us a little bit about, I go from player to now I'm a GM, and whether it's preparation, whatever it is, how did that feel?
Yeah. So it's been almost a full year since James left. So me and everybody else on the podcast were just like, we were super professional about it when it happened. like to everyone outside of what was actually going on. But now we're just sort of over it, and we're just going to speak about what actually happened. And what happened is James came in the Discord after not talking to us for maybe 2 weeks. We have our own Dice Drop Discord that just has all of us in it. And he goes, "Hey guys, I thought about this. Keep in mind we're at this point over 1,000 followers on Twitter, and I think at like 5,000 downloads on Podbean. Like we're in it at this point. Hey guys, I think I'm not going to do the podcast anymore. You see, I have a full-time job and a girlfriend now, so I just don't think I have the time for it. And keep in mind, I just want to. Elena is a school teacher.
We were just talking about this. We were just
Oh my god, we literally just had this conversation.
Elena is a school teacher. Kyle's in school right now and is working pretty much anytime he can. And I'm a graphic designer that works 9 hours a day and doesn't get home till 7 o'clock at night. And guess what? He didn't edit the podcast. He didn't design the podcast. I did all of it. He just had to show up and say some words, guys. So he left. And I had a panic attack. I was bawling tears.
I can imagine.
This was what happened in like within 2 hours. Panic attack, bawling tears, freaking out, spam calling James because I was like, what the fuck? It took me until that night after he sent it at like 11 a.m. like right now, this time, your time right now, my time. He sent it at this time. I didn't get access to the Roll20 until 9:50 at night because I was just like, if I'm going to be the DM, you have to give me the DM rights because I'm not remaking all those character sheets because wow. And he finally did it. He was just like, I just put it over to you. I was like, thank you. And I asked if I could have any notes at all. It is February 3rd, 2022. There are no notes. And I immediately am spam texting Elena like, can I be the GM now? Are you okay with me being the GM now? And she was just like, yes, do it.
Amazing.
Do it. And I was just like, perfect. And I called Kyle, and Kyle was just like, I saw it, because Kyle's very bad at Discord. He's like, I saw what happened. I was just like, are you okay with me being the person now? And he was like, you do everything anyways. And I was like, perfect, thank you. Kyle's been my friend since we've been 16, and we're like best friends. So him just saying shit is just normal for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I already had the name Game Goddess picked out because I was planning on doing a short, like, 3-part series with my guys playing Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, nice.
So I had Game Goddess already picked out, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm now the Game Goddess of Dice Drop Evolution. Here we go. And that's what happened. That was the journey.
You know what, Allie? That is so fucking awesome. Like, literally, like, so first of all, okay, you were doing a lot of the other stuff, like, let's say all the other stuff, but to step into the GM role is to literally take the wheel of the bus. And there had to be, like, I know for me, without having done it before, stepping into a DM role once and just understanding the preparation for that and how it felt and the anxiety I felt and just wanting it to work, wanting the players to all have a good time and all of that. Let's not minimize what you did. Like, that's a huge, huge leap that, that you jumped, with like a swan dive pose into, you embraced it with fucking style. That was incredible. And, I'm sure your players appreciate it. I'm sure your followers appreciate it. And, if you don't do that, it dies. If you don't do that, it's wrong.
Yeah. And if people could like say, oh, well, it was James's baby too. It's like, no, this was mine. This was my baby. I did all the editing. I did all the designing. I just want my players to have a good time, and I want everyone that listens to have a good time. And ever since I got in the driver's seat the amount of love and feedback that I've gotten has been super overwhelming because, as I stated before, episode 47 of Dice Drop Evolution was the first time I ever GM'd ever.
This is just wild. It's like us doing 50 podcasts, and for the first time on the 50th podcast, I'm like, right, Tom, I'm going to actually do a podcast with you today. that's actually mental. Like the thing that blows me away the most is like as a DM, GM, whatever you want to call it, I like it's the exhaustion levels as well that come with it. It's the putting yourself forward, and like, dude, like editing is not fucking easy. I have also been the editor. Like when we first start out, I was the editor for all this, and I guarantee, you know, when the first couple of stream episodes come out, I will be a part of that editing team. And it's just like, man almighty, like it's not easy. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of brain power. And once you start as well, you can't turn it off. Even if like, even in the middle of the night, you just can't turn it off. You're like, oh, I've had an idea, or, you know, this is, and once the ball rolls, interestingly, for those of us that are meant to be, you know, whatever people call it, forever GMs, you know, people who want to be, you know, a GM more than a player, or sit in the chair more, though it's a pleasure, it is also like everything we have. Like we put it all on the table in those moments for the players to have a good time, for, you know, an audience, if, you know, you have an audience, to have a good time, and so on and so forth. And I think, yeah, it's very much one of those ones that it's a sensitive space where we really put it all out there. We really put it all out there, and to commit to that, fucking brave as hell. I'm inspired, and you blow my socks off. So that's incredible.
Thank you.
Let me add to that as well, because there's the other side of it as well. It might be good to explore this, which is the satisfaction you get of like having people embody a world that started here, and now you're like adding color to it in real time, and they're changing and they're adding color to it, and this whole like dynamic, this creative dynamic that's happening fluidly back and forth. How is that sort of the satisfaction, the reward of stepping in, not just like saving the stream, but also just the self reward of being a GM? How was that for you?
So it's really funny because Eden didn't start out as my world. It started out as James's world. I then had to construct James's world into my own brain noggin and sort of make it into what I knew it was actually meant to be. So without retconning like the entire podcast and just like going off of everyone's storyline, I was able to finally like create a place that I was proud of. Now we are actually leaving Eden in the coming of episodes, and it's actually my world building now. I made an entire map of the United States saying, hey, here are all of the cities. You are going to Anchorage first, but then it's an open map for you. And
of
you
the whole
guys
United
can do
States?
Yeah, so I call it, because it's no longer the United States after 200 years of a nuclear war, it's the sanctum conglomerate of the sanitized cities.
Nice.
That is fucking badass.
And
That
it's
is fucking awesome.
SCSC. Yeah, it's SCSC as the acronym. And I told my players, I was just like, I'm gonna say this now, so if any of you laugh at me, you can do it now. And they're just like, okay, well, what is it? And I said it, and they were like, that's really good, Allie. And I was just like, wait, really? You're not laughing at me? Thanks. Yeah, so yeah, the entirety of like where Eden is in the United States, like I decrepit some of the borders because, you know, like water corrosion and everything. There are 13 cities that people can still live in. And I said, all right, well, this is now the sanctum conglomerate of the sanitized cities. And it sounded like a little bit evil, and it sounded like a little bit like, yeah, you're safe here, but like, yeah, that was what I was going for.
I love it. And do you know what I think? I'm sat here. Fuck, man.
I am too. I gotta say something.
Okay. I'm sat here and I'm going like this, right? So as a GM, like, let me just give you a bit of my stories. I've been building my world that people will see in our actual play podcast coming out soon, and I've been building that since I started being a dungeon master. So my whole brain power has been in this like steampunk, like middle fantasy world that I've been building for ages.
Hell yeah!
And it's like I love it, but also like I'm hearing, like, I'm seeing all these other, I'm seeing, like, you know, you guys doing this Mutants and Masterminds. I'm seeing, like, you know, over in Dimension 20, they're doing Starstruck. Over, you know, I'm seeing some amazing, like, what's it called? Lovecraftian, like, campaigns out there. I'm just like, oh, I'm missing out on so many different genres because I'm just building this world.
You're saying you can't put any Lovecraftian monsters in that steampunk middle fantasy world you're making? I think you can.
I'm getting there.
There's Allie challenging
again. I was gonna say, yeah, fucking, yeah, you fucking got it. No, you're right. You're 100% right, and I plan to, but it's one of those things of just like, you know, I wanna fucking play a superhero campaign. I want to experience some of that, and so the big thing about this that I want you to know out of all of this coming away from this conversation, I loved you before this conversation, and I'm so inspired by who you are and, you know, what you're doing and the world that you're in, and like, again, the setting that you're like developing yourself. I just love it all. I'm such a big fan of that. And first of all, to have 13 cities is fucking crazy. That's an extortionate amount of fucking world building. Like I think the maximum, like my big detailed areas, I think I have like 11 or 12 big details areas. And even then, I haven't really detailed each of those because I don't have time to go and detail each of my big areas at this point. Like, that's crazy. But honestly, you're blowing my mind. I think something that I wanted to ask you that I think is like an important question. Obviously, you know, James was there when you guys made the decision to go down the Mutants and Masterminds kind of decision. I know
that was also my decision.
I was about to say, I know that it did come from you though, predominantly. I've heard a couple of times now and read a couple of bits where it was like it came from Allie. What is it about superheroes versus swords that was like, yes, we're going down the superheroes?
We didn't want, okay, there's a flood. There's like a literal like ocean of D&D actual play podcasts. You want to know what there's a little river pond of? Mutants and Masterminds and sci-fi. So we went that way. I was just like, I don't want to do D&D because I think we're going to get swept up really quickly. And we're going to drown, and we're never going to actually like have the energy to like build up and make it how we want to. 100% love everybody that has done D&D and has been able to make it. Like, love everyone that does that. I didn't think that we were going to be able to, because sure, we're funny, but like, are we that funny? And so I looked at everybody. I was like, I want to be an X-Men. And they're like, what? And I was like, I want to be an X-Men, and I don't want to know my powers. I want to roll for my powers randomly, because what X-Men has ever been like, yeah, I want that power and gotten it? That's never been a thing. It's always been a curse. And then James kind of sat back and was like, wait a minute. And I was just like, yeah, let's do that. And then we did it, and then it worked. So
it's amazing because I mean, for me, especially also in this climate where Marvel and DC are just like taking chunks of fucking real estate like every single day, it feels like.
What was really funny, we were set to premiere the same weekend as the new Mutants movie was coming out. And then they delayed it because of the panini. And and we were just like, oh no, everything's awful. And then the pandemic really went, and we were just like, well, we're using the mutant thing like a bad medical thing, and this is just getting real awkward, but we're just gonna push more into it and hope nothing bad happens, and nothing bad's happened. So
it's been that I mean, you just the story arc of the evolution of Dice Drop evolution. I mean, to me, so there's a term triple threat in acting, right? You are, so I'm not sure how much of a threat you are in acting. You might be a triple threat in acting, but I totally think you are a triple threat in life. Okay, so let me just talk through this, because sometimes I have these wacky little theories. So when we first met you, it was very clear to us, and we immediately came off saying we want Allie on the podcast because you're just really sensitive, you're very available, just emotionally intelligent,
full of energy.
Yeah. So we were just like that. So that's one thing that we knew. Okay. The other bit that we kind of didn't know so much, maybe the two other bits of the triple threat, are how much of a fucking fighter you are. Like, you're just a tough badass. Like, underneath the sensitivity.
I bet you do well in cold weather. I bet you really do well.
I absolutely do not, and I want to move to Massachusetts, and they have like 3 feet of snow right now, and I was like, I would not leave the house.
But to the point, like, you have made decisions that, it's been fork in the road decisions, and every time you've been like, no, fuck that, we're doing this, and you keep doing that over and over again, and I love that. And the third part of it, so super sensitive, super emotionally evolved is one. Two is you're a fucking fighter badass, and the third is you're creative as hell as well. So you're coming up with the creative side of things, and that is super impressive, Allie. Like that's not like common.
I was about to say that's not something everyone has, and the whole fighter thing as well is like such a rare thing. People often sit and take their place, and will often like just be like hit with whatever comes their way, kind of thing. And like, and this is something that bothers me a lot. I often say this to my girlfriend when we're talking about female role models and feminism and stuff. I'm like, it bothers the fuck out of me that you have people like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from Nicki Minaj and Cardi B and all these amazing women who are doing incredible things.
Yeah.
But when you have women like yourself, the she-theys out there like yourself, and people like Amanda Nunez and Amber and Jess Pendley and like all these amazing people that are like true role models, like actual role models for women, not just like shaking some booty in a music video. Like, come on, like I love it, but also like we need like someone like yourself who is gonna, at every turn where there's a roadblock, you've gone, I'm gonna get over this wall, whether it be running fucking through it or climbing over it or running around it. Like, that's what is that's what a role model is. It's not someone fucking expressing their hundreds of dollars of bills in Gucci wear and whatever, like that's not what it's about. And so I just take my hat off to you as a role model for young people out there who want to get into what we're doing. And Tom and I, we're making a fucking habit of choosing really good guests, actually, as it so happens. But you, Amber, all these amazing people that we spoke to, Emil, Mark Arcusia, Jess Penn, like, it's just wild how many people in this community are like good people and good role models and people who, we love and want to like spend time with and interact with. So I don't know. It's just one of I don't know what to say other than just thank you for being who you are.
Stop.
Thank you for being who you are. Like, it's I know for me, like, something as a guy, I'll put this out there as someone who identifies as a man and often takes the stereotypical like I want a family at some point, and things like that. If I ever have a daughter, there's people like you. I'm glad that there's people like you in the world that I can be like, hey, look at this person. If you want to be like someone, fucking go be like Allie. Go fucking be like Amber, because they kick ass. Like, that's what it's all about.
It's really funny because Amber's my best friend. Amber actually lives 20 minutes from me, so we see each other all the time.
There you go. I was gonna say, it makes sense why, and it's one of those things as well. I think it's something that comes with confidence. It comes with time. It's something that doesn't always come to people in some cases in their lives. And I think you're just a really, really great example of that. Now, something I'm going to make a really interesting segue here. You ready for this?
Let's go.
You ready for this? So, as we've just talked about, you as a character are exceedingly diverse. Mutants and MasterMinds has an incredibly diverse character creation system based off of how you choose your powers. Talk to me about your power. Thanks. I did fucking good, didn't I? Right. Okay. So tell me a little bit about why you kind of went down your route with your powers, why you chose your powers, and what you, for River, this is specifically that I'm talking about, and why you kind of love that kind of build of how you build your powers in Mutants and MasterMinds, including that like blind power at the beginning that you started with.
All my powers are technically like rolled. I didn't actually get to like pick any of them. What we do is we do a first initial roll, which is a D100 that has an Excel sheet that has, all right, this is what you pick. And then I have them do like 3 D20s, and that tells me what power in that section they got.
Nice.
So it's literally like throw up in the air and figure it out. And like I said, my main reason was it's not fair that you can choose what power you get and be like cool and awesome and like not have any issues with it, while actual superheroes that you see in comic books and movies and like whatever, they didn't get to choose. They didn't get to be like, yeah, I want to have flight and invisibility so no one can see me. No, you didn't get to choose that. So that's how I kind of was with it. I was very much, and this isn't how I am with my guests. With my guests, I'm like, guests are allowed to choose. My players are not.
I am so you get the special shit. That makes sense.
Yeah. Amber is going to be on DDE soon, and Amber told me specifically, I don't want to choose my powers. I want to roll for them. And I was just like, all right, bitch.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's basically what I told them.
Now, you mentioned something that I actually had thought about a lot, because, you know, there's, like I mentioned a second ago, superhero content is fucking everywhere, from animated things nowadays through to big, like, cinema blockbusters all the way through. How much are things like, the Amazon Prime animated show, I can't remember the name, I think it's Impervious or something like that, and shows like The Boys and, you know, these Grunger, the Tick, and, you know, things like that. How much are those influencing some of this, like, ideas in, like, your mind? Are you watching any of that for source material, or is that just, you know, whatever?
Fun fact, I did not know about The Boys, and I was when I first saw it, I was unfortunately dating a man. Sorry, I didn't realize I was a lesbian at the time, but I was unfortunately dating a man who didn't know anything about my podcast, and we were together for 2 years, so you think he would like have listened to that a little bit. But I was watching The Boys with him, and I looked at him, I was like, this is just Dice Drop. And he was just like, no, this has like real things in it, like there's SA and like all that stuff. And I was just like, this is just Dice Drop. And, and he was like, your podcast doesn't do that. And I was just like, yeah, it does. We get into some heavy shit, dude. And yeah, it was just like, don't gaslight me about my own podcast. Thanks.
I was about to say that's exactly the moment you start going, you know what? I'm not sure about guys. That's the moment right there. That's the moment when he's like, I don't know what he's like, you don't do that in your podcast. You're like, the fuck? If you had listened to it, you would know we fucking do that in the podcast, motherfucker. What are you doing? You're like, I'm actually gay. What the fuck? I'm out of here.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was a fun revelation where I was just like, maybe I just don't like, and I said that Kyle is my best friend, has been my best friend since like I was 16, because we knew each other since I was 16. Kyle and I dated for 5 years. And Kyle and I know each other very well. We understand, we know our mannerisms, we know our tics. But I called Kyle and I was just like, Kyle, am I a lesbian? He was just like, oh God, I was waiting for so long. And I was just like, you didn't tell me? And he was just like,
how?
You have to figure that out for yourself. And I was just like, that's rude. No, I'm so like, slow.
You're meant to be my friend. This is where you come and talk to me. Like, come on now. No, I do you know what is interesting? We'll dive into this territory a little bit as well, because I think it's, again, something that's freaking inspirational and awesome that you're willing to like open up about all of that. Like, I'm bisexual here myself, and you know, it's one of those spaces where, you know, getting used to like operating that way and finding your own space very much is like stepping into the chair of a DM where you're just like, you know, all of this is new. Yeah.
Hello.
Exactly. It's new and it's interesting, and it's, you know, so I hella respect. Again, another example of just you being like, you know what? I'm taking a stance in my life, and and again, there's, you know, you hear stories of couples that are together for like 20, 30 years, and then the husband's like, I'm actually gay, like, oh, kind of thing. It's like, again, it takes a lot of courage to tell people these things, apparently, in a lot of senses. But I respect the hell out of you for doing that and just being brave and just being a badass again.
It's a generational thing as well.
You think?
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I don't know why it's harder for my generation, but it's just, I think there's like ingrained, like deep learned behavior stigma that of like mostly fear of judgment, but just straight out fear
of finding the gay within you.
Well, yeah, maybe some of that as well. Like maybe that as well. No, but I mean like fear of like stepping out, like stepping into the world like that. There's so much, and I just think I think that there's been a really good job of, and I do think it's your generation that has really sort of destigmatized it, taking the hard edges off. There's still like there's lots of work to do, right? Lots and lots of work to do, but a lot of those sharp edges have been sanded down for people to just to make it a little bit easier. And that is definitely you guys that have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at the Stonewall riots myself, but I appreciate it. But what you were going to say something, Allie. What were you going to say about that?
I was going to say I just thought I was bisexual, and then suddenly it hit me. It was just like, no, you're just like girls. And it's like, oh, it was something that. Yeah, it was something that I think my mother accidentally ingrained in me, and like she loves me for who I am. She knows that I am a lesbian. She's like, I love you, I don't care. But from when I was like 5 years old, she's the type of mother that's just like, you're gonna marry a rich man, and I'm like, okay, Mom. And then I was just like, I don't want a man, and she was like, I understand. Look at all of them. We don't have a lot of choices anymore.
Oh, that's such a good mum answer. God, what a good mum answer. Shout out to Allie's mum for that. Fucking hell, what a great answer that is. That's ridiculous. Now, obviously, appearances and judgment are things, that's one thing in life. And I wanted to ask you this about the podcast because it kind of interests me as well. Tom and I are sat here doing video podcasts, and people do video live streams, and you guys have chosen to do an audio podcast. What were the original reasons for that? Is there any sort of like fear of stigma, fear of judgment, or was it just like, it's fucking easier, we don't have to deal with video? Like what was the kind of feeling? I'll say
it's fucking easier so we don't have to deal with video, but also we like recording with our pants off in the summer. So none of us like wearing pants when it gets really hot out. So that's why we don't do video. Reason.
Incredible.
Well, if you do go video, though, I have a feeling there could be something viral that could be.
Oh yeah.
That could be in the summer. Like launch it in the summer and see what happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dice Drop Evolution OnlyFans actual play series. It's actually stripped Mutants and Madness, where as you do progressively worse, you lose more clothing as the session goes. Oh my god!
Tip us, we'll start rolling with D4s. We'll fail every time.
Exactly. Well, you know what? I think this has been an absolute pleasure for me to get to know you in this respect. You're, as I've said, like just a role model for me. I'm proud to be in this space with you and be sharing this kind of space with you. And I just want you to know, like, we here support you. You're amazing, and keep kicking ass in the way that you are, because there's very few people out there doing it like you're doing it, and keep doing that because it's unique and amazing. And there's, like I said, very few people doing it. So yeah, thank you so much for sitting and talking with us today. It's been a bloody pleasure. We flipped through an hour like it was nothing. Felt like bloody nothing on our end. It was great. I want to hand over to you and just say if you want to do any shout outs or mention anyone. You've talked about Kyle and all these people. If you want to let people know where they can find all those incredible people in your life, feel free to do so.
Hey, if you want to find me, I'm mostly at dice_drop. However, if you do want to follow me on my personal, it's Game Goddess Alex, but it's spelled ALX. So that's where you can find me. Again, never on my personal. Better off just following Dice Drop. Kyle's is also never on his personal. If he is going to write on Twitter, it's going to be on Dice Drop. He does have one, and it is on the Twitter. I do have to look up handles for everybody
Go for it.
because
It's all good.
I suck.
No, it's totally fine. On our end, as always, guys, Homie and the Dude, Holy Trinity. Like, follow Facebook, subscribe, YouTube, Twitter, all the good places, and NPCs, website, homieandthedude.com. You know, all that stuff. All the stuff.
If you want to follow Elena, who is my other female companion, Chaos Goblin, she is almost at 1,000 followers on Twitter, and she is PG_Keen24, and Britain is you're gonna keep this in because I don't want it to be edited. I think it's fine. It's gonna be Skagwater RPG to follow Britain, and we're just a crazy, chaotic, fun Mutants and Masterminds podcast that has some feels sometimes.
Awesome. We'll put everyone's handles in the description as well.
Yeah, we'll get those links for you. Otherwise, Dice Drop Evolution, an incredible actual play podcast where you can, like Ali said, underplayed it. It's a roller coaster of highs and lows, beautiful character development, and incredible plot development as well. So if you guys are needing something to binge while you're on the toilet, while your grandma's just talking at you, and you need something in the other ear, if you're needing something for the train ride, whatever it may be, Dice Drop Evolution be it. Is what I would say.
Bodhi, I'm just going to carry you around so you can just say more about my podcast than I ever could. Thank you.
It's all good. I'm the promo. That's Tom and I take the place, and he's like, you know what, you do the promo stuff. I'll do the intro. You do the promo. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. That's fine. But no, honestly, Ali, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us today. It has been more than an honor to have you on, and we look forward to possibly having you back again in the future for another episode. It would be a pleasure. Furthermore, we'd love to see you on the Homie and the Dude stream for some one-shots that we have coming up in the future. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
Amazing. Thanks, Ali.
Right. Homie and the Dude, Father and Son, TTRPG, MMA podcast. See you next time, guys.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching Homie and the Dude today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit us with the Holy Trinity. Go follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like the Facebook. It's the best way that you can help us out at the moment. Hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for watching, guys.